Good evening, fellow drummers and percussionists. Good evening to my co-host, Alan.
Good evening.
And welcome to the eighth and final episode of the Specialties. So we started this program last September, highlighting one specialty each month, beginning with the keyboard percussion, marching and rudimentary, drum set, even health and wellness. We did yoga last December. And this year, we had world percussion, education, interactive drumming, and last but not the least, symphonic. So ito yung namimiss na namin ni Alan, right? Tumugtog
Oo
sa
nga.
orchestra. So we're truly fortunate to have these generous artists and educators from the Philippines, USA, and Thailand to share their expertise with us virtually. So tonight, as the title implies, Life as an Orchestral Percussionist will cover some techniques for the concert percussion instruments and provide tips on how to win an orchestral audition if ever you're preparing for one. Right, Alan? So,
Hindi
makakatulong talaga sa atin 'tong workshop na 'to. Ano ba yung mga expectations mo from this workshop?
well, siyempre unang-una, it will be very informative, 'di ba? And also, uh, very interesting and it will serve siguro sa lahat ng percussion na nanonood ngayon na ma-motivate lalo, 'di ba? And ma-inspire. Lalo na siyempre, um, alam naman natin na may pandemic ngayon and yung mga players, syempre hindi tayo makapagtugtog ngayon. So at least this will serve nga na parang okay, may ganun palang mga informations or mga ways kung paano pa tayo mag-improve. So ayun nga, I mean magiging motivation siya para sa atin. And I'm very excited to to start this workshop.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Alan. Yes, that's totoo talaga 'yan kasi nga kailangan talaga natin na mag-practice pa rin kahit nasa bahay lang tayo most of the time. So, this educational programs, especially for percussion playing, talagang
Yes.
makakatulong sa atin 'to para motivated pa rin tayo and inspired. So, that's the mission and vision naman of PAS. So, before we begin, let's get to know our artists first. So Dr. Wnnapha Yannavut started her professional percussion education in 1989 at Regina Celli College School in Chiang Mai, studying with Mr. Chumpol Chanarong and Miss Nan Hatay Vitayananto Pornkul. Later, she went on to study with Mr. Pinay Prichaporn at Montfort College High School. From 1997 to 2000, she veered away from music, studying Thai language and literature at Prince of Songkla University, Patani campus. During that time, she was a member of the music club. After finishing her bachelor's degree, she returned to music, earning the Master of Art degree in Percussion Performance at Mahidol University College of Music, studying with Dr. Kai Reed and Associate Professor Shane Taylor Constant. In 2016, she received the Doctor of Musical Arts in Percussion Performance and Pedagogy from the University of Iowa, studying with Dr. Dan Moore. Additionally, she studied with Dr. John Parks for 1 month at the Florida State University in 2008. Since 2006, she has been an artist, instructor of percussion at Mahidol University and director of the Integrated Percussion Ensemble. She was also principal percussionist of the Thailand Philharmonic Orchestra from 2006 to 2012 and was promoted to timpanist in 2009 to 2012. In 2007, she was invited to play as a soloist with the Mahidol Wind Symphony. Currently, she is an artist lecturer of percussion at Mahidol University College of Music, a Yamaha Thailand artist, director of the Integrated Percussion Ensemble, and also principal timpanist of the Thailand Philharmonic Orchestra. So before we call on our artist, so we prepared a short video for her. So let's watch this video. Good evening!
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Sarah,
Sawadi!
Alan, and
Sawadi!
everyone. สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadika!
So thank you for having me tonight. Yeah, it's my pleasure and
Of
my honor to be
course.
here.
So, hindi na nga namin, sabi nga ni Kuya Lex, hindi na papatagalin. So, can you give us like an at a glance of what we are going to expect for this workshop?
Yeah, so for tonight, I'm going to talk about preparing an audition. So I selected some percussion excerpts that I think all of us know these pieces, right? So for example, like Beethoven number 9, first movement at the end, Hockey and Best for xylophone, Snare Drum like Scheherazade, third movement and fourth movement, and also Tambourine. So I think you guys already know these pieces, but I just want to share some tips that I learned from my teachers, and I also teach my students. Yeah, and also the audition process. Like if you want to audition to some orchestras, I think first thing that you may have to think and plan is like all steps that I prepare to share tonight. And also after you get in the orchestra, right? Maybe you have to face with some situations like some problems and stuff like that. I will talk about all of those stuff too.
Okay, thank you for that, Miss Wannapha. How about you, Alan? Would you like to share something before we begin?
Um. Well, yeah. I just wanna hear Miss Wannapha explain to us how she um uh deal with these excerpts. Um, So I think we can move on.
Yes.
Yeah, so first of all, actually I'm planning to play like all instruments that I prepare for, but due to the outbreak of the COVID in Thailand right now, so I decided to record all these
Yes.
pieces like the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of the week. So probably it's not enough time to prepare like some good microphone or anything, but I did my best. So
Yeah.
yeah, and we'll see the recording later.
Yes.
All right.
And thank you so much for doing that for PAS and for its members and for the percussionists and the Philippines as well.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will be listening and we will be, you know, um, putting our attention into your workshop so we can apply this to our, future plans or and also apply this or incorporate this into our practice routine.
Yeah.
So let's
Okay, all
welcome
right.
again Miss Wannapha Yannavut.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think first thing that I want to share is just like how to prepare an audition. If you want to audition in wind bands or in orchestra, so you have probably 5 to 6 steps. I think for me it's just like briefly, right? I did that myself, and also I learned from my teachers and a lot of information on internet or anything. So I summarized those and then want to share with you guys. So the first step that you have to plan and prepare is that you have to know all the excerpts, all the music that you have to prepare for an audition, right? So you collect all those pieces. You have to find the parts. You have to find music scores. You can find anywhere, like on IMSLP, right? Or even your library at school. So I think you guys can access those scores. And then you have to find good recordings. So for me, normally I try to find like 3 or 4 different recordings from different orchestras that you can listen to and then compare between those orchestra, right? And make sure when you looking for those orchestra, um, make sure you consider like good orchestras. Maybe you can ask your teachers, right? And then you can analyze those as well. And then after you got all those music recording scores and anything, now you have to prepare the instruments, right? For the instruments, you have to know like what instruments do you have and you need for those excerpts. For example, um, tambourine. You may have to think like what sound that fit with those excerpts. Okay, we're going to talk about that later with the excerpts that I prepare as well. So like silver or bronze or anything like that. Okay, so you have to think about that too. And also the place or venue that you have to go for the audition. So maybe just know the place first. Like if you have to go to very big hall, make sure you can find maybe similar acoustic hall like that. Then you can maybe go there and practice and do sound check and anything like that. Then you can decide again what mallets do you need to use, what instruments that can project well, stuff like that. Okay, and then um, after you know all of this, basic stuff, then next thing is very important thing. You have to plan and organize. So if you have like 1 month or 2 months before your audition, you can plan like, okay, this week I'm gonna start with snare drum, or maybe you have 2 hours for snare drum and then 1 hour for tambourine, 2 hour for xylophone and stuff like that. So you organize each day, each week, and then you have to know when is the deadline. Then you can run through everything. Then you have time to record it and fix yourself, and then try to do mock audition later. So this is kind of like all steps that you may have to prepare before you go audition. Mm-hmm. So I think now I'm gonna go to the selected pieces that I wanna talk about tips, sticking, and maybe some techniques. Okay. The first instrument that I want to touch on is timpani. I think I have music here. Yeah, so for the first recording that I just played is the ending of the first movement of Beethoven number 9. So you can see this articulation marking from this music. Actually, this excerpt I got it from John DeFoya book. It's a great book to study and learn the excerpts. Okay, so this articulation marking, um, you can check with the score why he think and wrote like this. So at first, from the measure 5-15, right? We play along with the trumpet. Okay, you see the one that I marked? Yeah, same rhythm. Okay, so first thing, when you learn music, make sure you learn it with scores, with parts, and then when you take the music and practice, you start with a very slow tempo and then get faster and faster time by time. Okay, for here, the first thing that I want you to check is all the rhythms. You see the 8 notes, you see 16 notes, and also 30-second notes, right? So make sure you subdivide 16 notes when you practice with metronome. Okay, then we go to the next page. Yes, still go along with the trumpet. All the same rhythm, right? And same notes. Next page, please. Yeah, so this page, I also marked the dynamics, right? So I marked the dynamics. So make sure when you practice, you add the dynamics as well. Don't just go only the rhythm and go bar by bar. So you have to think about dynamics, phrasing, and all the recording, like with all the instruments that go with you. Okay, the next page, please. Yeah, right here. So bar 527 is a forte, right? Yes. And then after that, you can go to the S or 531 to the next page. Yes, right here. A little down, please. Yeah. So right here, it's a 30-second roll. So it's kind of like meter roll. It's not tremolo. So make sure you know this too. And we go with the strings, right? So you guys just heard I play. So right here, some students got confused because they see like 3 slash on the notes, right? Sometimes they thought, oh, probably tremolo or something, but actually not. It's the middle roll. So you have to hear all the single strokes roll. Okay, and then after that, just check scores. You also go with the trumpet. Now, the rhythm that all orchestra play tutti. Scroll down a little bit, except horns and trumpets, right? So you have the same rhythm as woodwinds up there, and then strings below you. So make sure you practice this with the metronome as well. 1 at 2 at 1. And then you add the 30-second of the left hand later. Okay, and then end the piece. Same thing, 5-1. All right. So if I want to give you guys tips when you practice, make sure you think 4 things. 4 things. The first thing is the rhythm. You have to clean and clear all the rhythms with the metronome. Okay, and then you have to subdivide the 16 notes. I think it's very important for this piece. And then the second thing is the accuracy. Accuracy of the note, the pitch, dynamics. Okay, and then we're gonna go on to the next one is the articulation. Articulation that you can see all the markings that I found from this book is very helpful. Okay, the tenuto, because you go with the trumpet, but if your orchestra play short, or conductor asks shorter, then you have to play shorter. Okay, that's for like you already play in the orchestra. But for audition, you can do a little longer, like you can play all the full note value. So 8 notes, you can go to 8 notes. 16 notes, you go on to the 16 notes. Okay, you have to think about staccato, legato, short and long. And then the fourth thing is the sound. So one thing that when even myself and when I tell my students, if you go for the audition, make sure you have very clean and big sound for all instruments. I mean, not too big, but enough mallets that you can use and project the sound from the instruments. And also clean enough to hear all the notes and all pitches that you need to present. Okay. And then the other thing that I want to add is the phrasing. So if you take a look very closely from the music, maybe we need to present the music again, just only music, the Timpani part. The note, Timpani note, please. Yes. So if you take a look very closely, you can see if you start from the 5-1-3 to the end, actually it's a one big phrase. But if you divide it, you can have like 4 different phrases, right? So you start from very soft, the piano, and then you can keep it and do crescendo, then land to 5-27. And then after that, you have four bars, phrases, and then you build up to S. Okay, that fortissimo middle road right there. Okay, and then S, you can have like build up to 5-39, and that's the other goal that you need to land to. And in that measure, if you notice, it's going to be all the orchestra just build up the tension. And then you have 5-41 that you can get back a little bit and do crescendo and lead to the end of the piece. So for me, from 5-1-3 to the end is kind of like very big phrasing that you can see that way and then go along with all instruments. So now we're gonna listen to the recording one more time with the play along. Yes. So we just wrap up and end the Beethoven for the first piece. If you guys have any questions, okay, you can mention or want to share something, we can go right now as well. If not, then we can go on to the next piece first, and then maybe after I talk all 4 instruments, then we can have Q&A later too. All right, for the second piece, I want to go to snare drum. Okay, for snare drum, I picked Sherazade, third movement and fourth movement, because I think it's kind of like national piece for, national song for percussionists. So everyone has to learn this piece. All right, for the third movement, of course, I forgot to tell you guys. So before you study all the notes, don't forget to study history of the music, okay? And then you have to know the background of the music. You have to know composer, okay? You have to analyze the music. Just use all knowledge from the history class, from theory class, okay? And then you will know exactly what you have to work on and what you have to practice. So for the third movement with the snare drum part, I will play from the D, okay, to I. Okay, we're gonna take a look at the note first, at the part, and then watch just a short video of this excerpt. Yes, what a pretty piece. I love it. All right, so yeah, we're gonna talk about the rhythm, and then we're gonna go with the sticking that I prepare for you guys. It's just a tips. Um, there are so many techniques and ideas of how to interpret this music, right? And there are so many ways to use different stickings. So for me, it's just one option that is work very well with me, and so I suggest to my students as well. Some may not comfortable doing it, but they can find their own. But most of them follow this instruction, and they did very, very good. All right, um so let's see the score, the part of the snare drum for the third movement. We're going to take a look quickly. Yes, so at D, okay, So it's 6/8. You guys have to know it's into for sure. And then in one beat, you have 3 8 notes, right? So 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and you have the first beat rest. Okay, people just take a look at D, right? So for the first beat, you don't have beat 1. You start on beat 2. Okay, and then you have 6 30-second notes, and then you have the third beat. Okay, and that I already wrote the subdivision above, so you can see is a 16 triplet, right? And then end with the 8 note. Okay, you can think of that rhythm first, and then you add double stroke in there. And then for the sticking, I start with the left hand, right hand, left hand, and right hand. And then for the second beat of the bar, I always use right, right, right. The reason that I use this sticking because I can make very easy phrase the music. So you can see the natural crescendo and diminuendo. Yeah, right there. So why I did that? Because first of all, the first beat, right? The first beat is kind of like um, the black beat, right? Is downbeat, so it's kind of like stronger than the second beat. But when you have 1 2 3 1 2 3, then you have 2 big beats in one bar. Okay, so for the first beat, I would do crescendo and lead to the second beat of the bar, and then make a little diminuendo. Then we have shape. Okay, why I interpret like this? Because we have score. We study score. So let's see score for the third movement, the music score. Yes, scrolling. Yeah. So now you're gonna see right here, we're gonna play like introduction for 2 bars. Okay. And then what instrument enters? The clarinet, right? Clarinet enters and clarinet solo the melody. And you can see the melody from the clarinet part. Okay. Now we are the accompaniment, right? So make sure we play very, very soft and under the clarinet. Okay, and you can see the phrasing from the clarinet. We can listen to and then just analyze how they play, and then we can fit this phrasing with them. Okay, scroll down a little bit, please. Yeah, see? We are the accompaniment. Okay, you can see phrasing, 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 and the note that they lead to the second beat as well. So that's why we can do that. And then support the clarinet. Yes. A little down, please. Okay, so before we go to the next section, we're gonna get back to the snare part, snare drum part. Okay, for the next section, now we're gonna go to F, major 5 of F. Yes. So right here, actually we play with flute, right? So now flute will play melody, and we can hear the flute very well. And right here, also you can see beat 1, right? And then beat 2. So right here. This kind of like the sticking that I suggest. Okay, some people can play all the single stroke, that's fine. But for me, I think when we do the double, okay, double right here, double on the right hand, and then end with the double on the right hand as well, can help us keep our tempo. Okay, for me, I'm right-handed, right? So that's why I use right hand a lot and try to control with the tempo. So I think I can do that easily. But some people can do single stroke. There's nothing right, nothing wrong. It's just the idea that I use and also suggest for lots of people. And actually it works very well with me. Yeah, and then you can practice only the main note first. Right, 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 left, right, right. And then you can practice that along with the recording or with the metronome first. Make sure you play equally between 16 notes. Okay, don't get like rush or anything. And then you can add drag like these small notes later with the metronome as well. Okay, now we're gonna go to the scores. Then you can see. Yes. So I highlight the flute part and then scroll down a little bit. Now we're gonna see snare drum. Yes, right here. So actually it's kind of like accompany the rhythm as well. Yeah, so make sure you practice here very clean and clear with the metronome. And then make sure your rhythm is not unstable. Okay. All right. Now we're going to go to the fourth movement. Maybe we can hear the recording first, and then we're going to get back to note and scores. All right. Yeah, we just hear the fourth movement. So I cut some section that's kind of like important. So now we're going to start with the section C first. So take a look. So now we're going to clean up the rhythm. So when you see the tremolo with that 8 note, so right here, when you study music, okay, you take a look, vivo, right? Vivo very fast. You see 2/8 right here. So time signature is kind of like the thing that tell you what tempo, what rhythm, what number that you can count. Okay. So for me, right here is in one, right? And you have to subdivide one and all the time. So kind of like you have 2 beats in one bar. So the first beat, you have 1/8 note, and then second beat, you have 1/8 note with the tremolo. So for me, I think like 16 triplet. Okay, then you can fit with the tempo. Okay, some recording go with the 88, some recording maybe go faster. So depends on the recording. And but one thing, if you go for the audition, make sure you follow the paper, so you can go with the 88. That's fine too. All right, for here I use bass roll kind of like 16 triplet and then do crescendo. I start with the left hand first. Then we do right, left, right, left, right. Okay, and then we can add the small notes, right? Drag later. When you practice, maybe it's helpful a lot if you can just focus on the main note or the primary note first, and then you add the ornament or flam, drag, stuff like that later. Okay, because you have to clean all the rhythm and tempo with the main note first. All right, then the second part. Okay, second part. Yeah, right here. So why I also play right here as well because a lot of students or a lot of players have problems with tap notes, like the soft note, right? So you have to do crescendo roll from here, 4 bars before end, and then you have to go subito pianissimo right away. So you play it, so super soft. So make sure, for me, I use my right hand, play very loud at the first beat, and then the second beat, I just use my left hand, go down to like kind of almost the edge of the snare drum to get very good place of the soft note and soft sound. Okay, that's my tip. So when you hit bam, the first beat, and then with the 16 notes, you go very low and very close to the drum. Probably you guys already saw it from the recording, right? And make sure you start the 16 note, and then other instruments will come along. We're gonna go to the scores and check it later. You have so many instruments come in with the 16 note. Make sure you also play with them, and then listen to the melody as well, because you are the accompaniment right here. Okay, now we're gonna go to the next section. It's the P section. P section. Yes. So right here, same thing. You always count 8 notes inside, right? Because you have to subdivide. And then you have the main note on the upbeat. 1 and 1 and 1 and. So right here, you have to practice line up with the metronome exactly on time. 1 and 1 and 1 and. And then you add the drag later. Okay. Try to play the right hand with the metronome very exact time. And then when you have drag, you have to do like pick up drag to the main note. Okay, just be careful when you add the left hand. Sometimes it's easy for us to get laid back, so our 8 note maybe go almost the end of the bar or something. So make sure you very focus on this note as well. And then the fourth bar of P is a 32nd note, right? So you make sure you have the first beat, and then the 8th note at the end here is kind of the end of the bar, right? So make sure you practice right, line up with the metronome, and then you can maybe get slow down metronome, and then add all the 32nd note later. So probably now we may need to see the orchestra score. Okay, so right here we just talk about the rhythm at the beginning. Okay, we're gonna go down to the P section. Oh, maybe right here first, the N. Okay, so scroll down a little bit. So yeah, you can see N here. You start the 16 note here, right? And then scroll down, you will see what instrument come along. Yep, you can see. Okay. You can see Timpani here. And then after that, as you play along. Also harp, you see that 16 note, right? Yeah, so make sure you line up with them as well. And then it's easier because you're just like next to the timpani, so it's easier. All right, and then we're gonna go to the P section. You can go down, down, down to the P section. Yeah, right here. I want you guys to see all the orchestra parts. Maybe you can do smaller size. Then you can see all the orchestration and all instruments. Yes, see, you can see a lot of people play the upbeat, right? So you line up with them, and then you have bass drum piety to have 8 note right here. Also, you have to start the first and the end of the bar with them, with the 8 note. Okay, now we can go on. Yeah, right here. For my interpretation, I study, like, I see a lot of melody, okay, woodwinds, brass. We can go a little further. Yeah, so even we don't have this crescendo that I highlight, crescendo and diminuendo here. Originally, there's no crescendo and diminuendo in snare drum part, right? But other instruments that they play, they have it. So make sure you also have it as well, because you want to support them. Okay, so just go with them. See, all strings also have it. And you are the accompaniment, you are the supporter of the orchestra. So make sure you do that with them as well, but not too much, like over them or anything. Okay, good. Then when we can go to the next section. Yeah, this last section is kind of like a lot of percussionists face with a technical problem. So we can go up even further to Q. Yeah, right here. So Q, you can see the trumpet is the melody right here, and also we are the accompaniment, right? Snare drum is the accompaniment. So first you take a look at the dynamic. Trumpet is forte, okay? For snare drum is mezzo forte. It means you have to play softer than them, but same rhythm, same articulation. So make sure you can study and listen to the soloist part as well. Okay, you hear and listen and study the staccato, and also listen to the trumpet player, like what articulation they use. So for me, I think right here, okay, they play pretty sharp. So for me, I used the single stroke. Some people may use double stroke, that's fine, no problem at all. But maybe single stroke can make more clearer as well. But the problem is it's very fast tempo right here. So quite fast. So you have to develop your shot, okay? Your single stroke roll to play this section pretty well. And also follow the dynamics, but not over the trumpet. All right. So I think for snare drum, we have enough for now. So probably next one, we're going to go to tambourine. Okay, we're going to go to tambourine. not with recording, right? So we can take a look at the beginning of the overture. The tambourine is the below part, okay? So you have in two for sure. This one in two. So you have to count 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and you have to subdivide as well. For me, I use only my right hand, okay, to hold it and then play with my left hand, because I can control the roll pretty well on my right hand. And then for the differences of dynamics, you have to maybe use the different height when you hold the tambourine that you just saw it in the recording, right? And then when you have crescendo, you can start from the very low and then go higher. Then the audience can see, the audience can hear, okay, the dynamic as well. And for the articulation, you can see right here. So you have staccato marking, right? And the stroke that I chose, normally I just play kind of like legato, staccato, half. But then when you see the staccato marking, make sure you play faster speed on your stroke. Okay, so that's kind of like general basic that you have to know all the basic stroke first, and then how to difference your stroke with different articulation. You can think of the speed when you hit it. If you hit one stroke and you lift up a little slow, you can mention that, oh, this is legato, right? But if you do a little faster with the snap motion, that's kind of like staccato. Okay, so I think you guys know that already. So make sure you choose of those different character of the strokes to make different character of sound. Okay. All right. So I think the very hard part for this probably when you roll from the loud and get softer, like after the second ending. Okay. And maybe the tempo and the rhythm, because sometimes people forgot to subdivide, so you can have like quarter note probably a little unstable, and then when you roll and come back you have a different or offbeat or something. So make sure you practice always with the metronome, and then after you can master it, then you can practice with the recording. So now we're going to listen when I play with the recording. Yeah. So one thing that you have to always remember, you have to find the phrasing, okay, and how to shape the music. So can we get back to the part one more time, please? You take a look at the beginning, okay, the beginning of the piece. You can hear the orchestra do a little crescendo to the fourth bar, right? So also I will do a little crescendo as well. So go with the orchestra, and then from the beginning until the end of the first ending, that is one phrase, like one big phrase. So you have to see this kind of phrasing first, and then you can play with the recording, you can play along with the orchestra, you know exactly what direction you want. Okay, and like right here, 2 bars before B, you can see the roll that kind of like build up and then land to B. Also, you have to start from soft and then go along with the orchestra, support them, and then bam to B. Okay, it's kind of like get back to kind of like A, kind of beginning. And then from B to 4 bar before C, also that's a very, very big phrasing as well. Yeah, just don't forget about this when you study and practice unpitched instruments. Now we're going to go to the second piece of the tambourine. Yeah, can we start with the first page of the music, please? So I just play Carmen Suite number 1, right? Then can we see the music from the first page? Yes. So it's kind of like 3/8, but you can think in one because it's allegro vivace. It's kind of very fast, and then conductor will count in one. So make sure you have 3 subdivide always in your mind. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? And then you can see the rhythm. Okay. And then from the beginning, for 8 bars before you get to diminuendo. Okay, you have that for the first phrasing. Okay, you can control. So if you notice, okay, when you play tambourine with the loud, you start with the fortissimo, right? And then you have to get back to right here, piano. So start from bar 9 until the 3rd line, 2nd bar. So make sure you have all of the time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars from the fortissimo to piano. So make sure you have different fingers to play. Like when I start playing, I play like kind of like 2 to 3 fingers. And then when I get to piano, I have only 1 finger left, okay, to control the very soft sound. And then also the other part, scroll down a little bit, please. Yeah, you have differences between forte right here, forte, and then piano. So you can do different angle of the tambourine, and also you can do different fingers when you play as well. You can use 2 or 3 fingers to play loud, dynamic, and then you can use only 1 or maybe only 2 fingers for the soft playing. And then for the next one, from B, okay, from B, you have diminuendo here, diminuendo, diminuendo. And then you have crescendo here, get back and build up to here. But you can interpret like if you can see and also hear the recording and maybe study score, you will see like, oh, we don't get to that loud yet, but we have small crescendo. So maybe go to like mezzo piano or mezzo forte, something like that. For tambourine and xylophone, I didn't prepare the music score or orchestra score as well, because for the first two instruments, it's kind of like example that you can go back and study and follow that instruction by your own. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna listen again with the recording. Okay. With all of this articulation, marking, phrasing, and then sound of the tambourine that you need, different fingers when you play, different height, different position of the tambourine when you hold it. Okay. Now we're gonna listen again. Yeah, for the sound concept of the tambourine. So it's your selection. You can study, you can find different timbre of the jingles. Like some people use silver jingles for this music, because like gypsy music, you can hear a lot of brighter or maybe smaller, drier, and you can find those instruments as well and experiment on it. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna go to the last piece. Okay, it's a xylophone, and no one wouldn't know this piece. For my suggestion, it's very difficult lick, and you need to have very nice and relaxed single stroke on your hands, and those kind of like different sticking, different rhythm and syncopation, a lot of musical issue, phrasing technique, and stuff like that. So for me, it might be easier if you can separate hands to practice first. Okay. And after you can know exactly what to do with the right hand and with the left hand, then you can add it together later. So for the sticking, again, this is just my suggestion, that sticking that I learned from Dr. Parks as well. So it worked with me. So if doesn't work with you, you can find another sticking as well. But this is just one option. Okay, we're gonna go to the recording that I practice with the metronome and separate hand first. Yeah, for the sticking, normally I use like the separate the right hand with the melody and then left hand with the accompaniment. Okay, but for the third bar, you can see this third bar because normally we can analyze it. The first two bar is kind of like the theme that you have melody and accompaniment, and then you have the interruption like the transition of the one line melody. So you can add single stroke in those bars. Okay, for example, 2/4 right here, and then you're gonna see this kind of stuff go back repeating and repeating with different range, different octaves, okay, and maybe different notes, do some sequence and stuff like that. Okay, we can go down a little bit. Yeah, see, you can see it as well. So when you get back to this kind of like one line melody, you can have single stroke, okay, and then before that, same thing. You can have the accent note, kind of like the main line with the right hand, and you can shape those and then have the accompaniment or the left hand support them. Okay, you can have shape all the time. You can do the phrasing and then make it all along with the orchestra as well. Okay, we can go down a little bit. Yeah, and this have like sequence, third sequence to the end. Kind of like for me is two different um, ideas right here. So the first idea is kind of like moving with the right hand melody, accompaniment with the left hand. You can use double stroke. And then another idea of this beginning section is the one line melody that you can use both hands. Even you do like breaking chord, right, switching notes in arpeggio and stuff like that, and also the sequence when you go down or go up. So it's just two ideas that if you know that, then you can analyze and make the sticking that you prefer. Okay, so now after you finish this both hands and then add it together, now you can play with recording. All right, so we just end the last selected selected excerpt that I prepared for you guys today. So don't forget, you have to know and you have to choose the mallets that you like. If you want the sound bright, you can find bright mallets like hard plastic or um, some kind of like poly, okay, mixed with the plastic. For me, I just my preference is OR39R, so I use that a lot, and especially with the Porgy and Bess as well. So now the next topic that I want to touch just briefly, after you get in with the audition, you be a member of the orchestra. So there are 6 rules that help me and also my students as well. I always teach them that if you have these 6 rules, then you survive. You'll be fine in the orchestra world, or even you're a professional musician if you can do all of these 6 rules. Okay, the first thing is be on time. Be on time. It means if you have rehearsal at 6, be on time of us. You have to be there at least 5:30 or probably 5. Okay, because our work, our percussionist job, It's not just go there and then play. We have to move instruments. We have to set up our instruments. We have to put our mallets on the tap stand and make sure the instruments in tune. You have to tune the timpani first. You have to know all the drum heads are fine. Okay, you have to check everything before you have the rehearsal. So make sure be on time of us means you have to be there early though. Okay, that's the first rule. Second rule is like you have to know your task. It means you have to know your job. You have to know your work. So be responsible. If you have Sharasat, right? You have to study. You have to know exactly the score. You have to know the score. You have to know when to come in. You have to know who you are with. Okay, know everything about the music, and also you have to have like your idea as well when you come to the rehearsal. The third rule is that you have to own your gears. Okay, I didn't mean like you have to buy lots of instruments, like you have to buy timpani. No, but you can buy lots of instruments that you can afford, right? So you can have your snare drum, you can have all the mallets. Okay, sometimes you can buy cymbals. You have your own tambourine, triangle, small instruments. You have to have music. You have to have your pencil, your towels, and everything, all of these gears that percussionists need to have. And then fourth rule is that you have to be flexible. When I talk about flexible, it's not just like you're chilling, but flexible for your work. When you have your idea, when you study music score, you practice, you play in the practice room, you know exactly what mallets you want to use, what sound you want to produce, right? But when you go to the rehearsal and the conductor asks you to change your mallets, make sure you be flexible to follow the instruction of the conductor or even your section leader as well. Okay, that's the other idea. And then also the setup, you can be flexible to be there earlier and then flexible to go home later. Okay, and sometimes the schedule of the orchestra may change according to the situation of the orchestra, or sometimes the soloist cannot come, or some people get stuck in the traffic jam or something, and then conductor has to decide to maybe move some pieces first or something. Or sometimes like if you have one section of the rehearsal and then it's not good enough, maybe after the break conductor may ask you to stay a little longer. So be flexible to be there and help your section members to tear down instruments and set up instruments as well. For the fifth rules, okay, is that when when you warm up before the rehearsal or before the concert, maybe better if you used soft mallets. Okay, and maybe just if you want to play like you want to try or warm up forte on the cymbals, please be there earlier, probably 2 or 3 hours before the rehearsal time or concert time. Like nobody's there, then you can do that. But if just 1 hour before the rehearsal, lots of people already come on stage, right? And people just wanna tuning and maybe warm up the instrument as well. So if you hit super loud bass drum or loud cymbal, it's gonna annoy them. So make sure you don't do that. Okay, and then the last rule is just like for the music. So probably I already talked a little bit in the fourth rule already, like be flexible. But for the sixth rule, it's just like you have to have your own idea of the playing. So after you study score and you come to the rehearsal, nobody talk about your playing at all. But make sure you have your own ideas. Like, okay, right here I want to use this stick to have this sound. So right here I want to listen to the flute and then play along with them, under them. And then right here, I want to do a little rubato to fit with the string and stuff like that. So you have to have your own idea. But also you have to be flexible. If someone asks you to maybe try something else, you should be able to do that. Okay. Yeah, so these kind of like rules that can help you to be a professional orchestra musician as well, and also other band if you can apply for that. And last topic that I want to share tonight is about the problems during the concert or rehearsal. So if you already play in the orchestra, sometimes for us percussionists, we are way back in the orchestra, and sometimes like we play in the big hall like Thailand Field. So when I play in the hall, in the big hall, Prince Mahidol Hall is pretty big and long, and yeah, it's quite big and sound pretty delay from the percussion section and then to the podium of the conductor. So sometimes you have to know your hall first, okay? And you can try so many times during outside the rehearsal, record yourself, and then you can try to hear like how much delay. And sometimes when you play in the orchestra, you can ask the brass section or ask the conductor as well. You may have to play a little earlier, like a little ahead of your beat, just a tiny bit sometimes. Okay, especially like tambourine, maybe suspended cymbal sometimes, tam, stuff like that. So if you can try that, maybe it helps about your delay. So the second thing is that sometimes the articulation that you think it may not enough for the audience. Okay, that's another problem that I faced sometimes when I play Timpani, and I think, oh, this should be fine, and I hear pretty clean in my place, in my chair, right? But the conductor asked me, oh, it's not clear enough, right, at front. So probably can you change the mallets? Then, oh, now, so I know exactly. So probably when I think on some mallets, maybe I have to prepare another number like harder and make sure when the conductor asks, I can have options for them. Okay, and the other thing that sometimes people just forgot about intonation, like the Timpani is pretty clear. If you play something out of tune, people can hear that easily. But make sure you won't stuck with a very exact pitch. Okay, you have to flexible with the orchestra. Sometimes like when the brass gets sharp because of the weather, make sure you hear them and you can adjust your Timpani with them. Okay, not just like, oh, I think I'm right, and then not do nothing, and then probably it's you that out of tune, even you think you are right. Okay, make sure you go with the ensemble. And then another issue is that about too soft and too loud. Sometimes in the music, it's written like 3F. So all right, now I'm gonna hit pam, so super loud, but actually you have like bigger instrument than all people in the orchestra, right? So sometimes your 3F probably need only 2F that can fit with the orchestra, something like that. Or sometimes you think you play very soft, but probably it's not soft enough. So you have to try different things, different position of the instruments, and also different mallets as well. Okay, when you want to solve these kind of issues. Yeah, so I think that's all that I prepare for you guys tonight. So do you have any questions or any comments or something to share? Yeah, please feel free.
Maybe we can ask Alan.
Yeah. Um. Well, I, I I'm curious, um, like in this part. Oh, where's
Yes.
that? Uh, like did it happen to you? Um, like this problem during rehearsals, or like someone told you that you sound good in their position, but what you're hearing while you play in your area is not that good, or you're hearing different. So how do you deal with that kind of situation? Which one will you like? Um, uh, will you follow your own instinct, or the people saying that you know
Okay, so
that?
first of all, who is that person? The
I
conductor?
mean, maybe the conductor or your fellow musicians, like for example the violin
Ah,
people, or maybe the cello people. How do you deal with that kind of scenario?
okay. So I have to get back a little bit. So for me, when I rehearse, normally I record it myself almost
Yeah.
since the beginning of the rehearsal. So I always record it myself, even right there, right with me, the recorder, or sometimes I put at front as well. Then I can hear from the audience aspect, like okay, that far, how's the sounds like come out, right? But
Hmm.
if you already fix that, and then other person probably tell you, like the conductor, and ask
Yeah.
you to do differently, so probably you may have to follow the conductor, and
Okay.
then maybe adjust a little bit to
Hmm.
make yourself happy, but don't
Okay.
change things too much.
All
Yeah,
right. All right.
so make sure the conductor happy first,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if he doesn't feel good, probably he's gonna yell at you all the time.
Okay. Okay. Noted.
Yeah, but make sure you can adjust something. If you are unhappy, you can just adjust something on top of that.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Any other questions?
Maybe I can ask about you being as the principal timpanis. So do you also have principal percussionist in the Thailand field, or is it just principal timpanis?
Right now, I'm a principal timpanist, but way back to 2000, what? I forgot. Long
I
time
think
ago.
2000,
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, probably 2007, probably, not sure. But yeah, back then I was a principal percussionist, and I play all percussion instruments first, and then after uh, our timpanist, you know, got back his country, something like that. So I got promoted to the timpanist, and then back then, maybe like couple years, that I hold a position like principal percussion and timpani, right? But then right now, our system in orchestra just like changing also. So now we have percussion, principal percussion and principal timpani. So now we have different position.
I
Is
see.
that right?
Um,
Yeah.
So how do you deal with your colleagues, especially that, you know, all throughout the world, there's just a few women who leads the percussion section. So what's your take on that when with
Uh,
regards to leadership in the percussion section?
okay. First of all, I want to thank all of my colleagues back like way back to the past as well. So I'm so lucky, and I also was so lucky because I got like very kindest colleagues ever. We work together like pretty well. I never had any problem before. Yeah, at all. Yeah, so I'm so lucky. So probably one thing that we are nice people, right? And we don't yell at each other, so we just like find the problem and find the solution, and we talk. We always talk, and then sometimes we just hang out outside the rehearsal time as well. And mm, and normally I don't like other people, even I'm the leader. Sometimes I just ask their opinion, okay, and maybe just have like brainstorm instead of like, all right, you have to do that, something like that. And I always let my colleagues to have their own role, like they can prepare everything their own. And then if something like maybe sound a little off something, then I may ask, but normally I just let them do their jobs. Mhm.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. It's good to know that you have a good relationship with your colleagues, especially most
Yeah.
of them are male.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so lucky though. They're very nice. Mhm.
And also, I would like to ask about the your response, or how did you respond to the work, the changes with regards to your work, if ever you had this changes in the schedule in the orchestra. So did you work from home last year? Uh, because percussionists are greatly affected by this pandemic because of the access of instruments. We have limited access if we record or practice at home. So how did you respond to that situation, especially when the
Yeah, after
lockdown started?
uh-huh. Yeah, like from the last year, it's kind of like tragic for all of us, right? So we got break for like almost half years. Yeah, almost half year. And we don't have an access to go to the hall. Okay, but we did like online with the orchestra, like I think you guys have done that too. Like we record from our home and then
Mhm.
send them the file, and they just collect it to be like exact same piece, right? And for percussion section, we are not um doing like big instrument at all. We just have snare drum, cymbals, like small instruments, and also glockenspiel. um yeah, but no timpani, no bass drum, and big instruments. And that we can just use our own instruments and record it at home. And then luckily that we got back to the orchestra like couple months ago, probably 4 months ago, yeah, something like that. And then we had a chance to perform again for like several months. But then now we just got like another outbreak, so we have to be home again.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah, it was great to know that you're able to, to return on stage to perform with a live audience, but of course with limited numbers of
Yes.
people to, to watch the show. And I
Yes.
think we have a question from our live stream on Facebook. So Mr. Ernie Severino is asking, would you suggest to memorize some of the written parts, especially the difficult ones or transitions? So would you suggest to memorize some of the written parts, especially the difficult ones or transitions?
During the performance or during the audition, or both?
I think in general, or
Mm,
I think it's
like
pertaining to
like
the audition process.
okay, so mm, probably if you have like technical issue, right? And very fast and very hard to look at the music. So for me, normally for the orchestra music, I don't really memorize. But if like kind of like different licks like Poggy and Bess, yeah, I would memorize that. Okay. And for snare drum, probably we play like over 100 or 1,000 times already. So probably I already remember it like without thinking, right? So, but for yeah, if I have some technical issue, I would memorize that.
So he added something. He meant that during rehearsals, would you suggest to memorize?
During my
It's
rehearsal,
it's the same question. So would you suggest to memorize some of the written parts, especially the difficult one or transitions during rehearsals? Miss Diep, you're on mute.
Not.
Siguro while waiting, Alan, siguro we can add something to that question.
Okay.
So sabi ni Sir Ernie, kung during rehearsal ba, I think depende po yun kung sa akin, depende kung pang ilang beses na yung rehearsal. Kasi kapag medyo madami po, saka medyo talagang mahirap yung passage na you have to listen to other instruments and tumingin talaga sa conductor. Kailangan mo na talaga po siyang i-memorize, 'di ba? I think mag-agree din dun si Alan. Pero sa akin po yun sa concert percussion. Pero sa drum set kasi, since hindi naman ako masyadong nagpa-play ng drum set sa orchestra. So maybe Alan can answer that. Kung nagme-memorize ka ba, since a lot of what do you call this, page turning is required kapag drum set, right?
Well, sa orchestra playing ay sa mga mallets, yun tinatry kong i-memorize kahit paano yun, siguro kahit yung pinaka mahirap na part, kasi syempre pag medyo mahirap pag nag-sight read ka, di ba? So at least yung pinaka mahirap na part, at least kahit paano alam mo na aninagan na ng mata mo. Tapos sa drum set, siguro basically ganun din, na-memorize muna siya. Pero yun nga, siguro familiarization na rin dun sa tunog at saka sa pattern, and then also dun sa pasok ng banda, or I mean yung orchestra mismo. Siguro yun dun sa mga difficult passages, yun yung sa akin.
Miss Dia,
yeah.
can you
Yes,
we can hear you
we
now.
can hear you.
So we just added some, answer to that question about memorizing some, difficult passages during rehearsals. So it really depends, because you get familiar to that passage if you have rehearsals. For example, you do it in 5 consecutive days, and then you're already familiar with the piece. But if it's really your solo, then you have to memorize it.
Yeah, it depends on what music and what
Yes.
chamber, what ensemble you are in. So for solo, probably it's better if you memorize it. If like orchestra or band, You don't need to, but if you want to, that's fine. And probably some technical error that I told you guys, like if you have like different and difficult sticking changing, or you play mallets and you have to look at the instruments, so maybe better if you memorize it. But other than that, you don't need to. From my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you,
You're
Sir
welcome.
Ernest and Verena, for that question. Um, how about Alan? You still have something to ask?
What else? Uh, um, uh, like without like audition or anything, like how many hours are you like practicing a day? Like, is there any routine that you're doing constantly, like for a
Okay,
week?
so um, when I was student, of course, at least 5 hours per day, at least.
Okay.
But
Mhm.
like after we work, you guys know we don't have that much
Mhm.
time, right? So we are
Yeah.
super busy with the work. At least 2 hours that I have to find my time to practice. But right now we are so free with the COVID, right?
Yeah.
So staying home and practice, so 3 to 5. um if I actually I have the solo performance coming up, so I plan myself to practice at least 3 hours per day.
Okay.
um yeah, but like at the beginning of the week, that was crazy with the meetings and stuff because of the outbreak just going on, a lot of going on in
Mhm.
Bangkok right now. So less, probably 2 hours or 1 hour. But
Mhm.
then after everything gets like calm down, I may get back to that.
Okay. Addition to that question is there is do you have like sequence when it comes like practicing, like for example you're doing warm up first and then exercises and then you deal with the excerpts, is how what is the sequence that you're doing when you do the routine every day?
Yeah, always starting with a snare drum warm up, always.
Okay.
Cause I think snare drum is like the very basic instrument that you can, start warm up with the wrist, right? So with your stroke. So snare drum is pretty basic and easy. So when you get up, like when I get up early in the morning, just hit slow stroke first, like
Okay.
just very warm up. And then when you go to instruments, maybe you have like some warm up routine. I have like tons of it, so I just switch between day to day. I don't
Mhm.
play everything in one day. I just separate and have like switching every day in the week. And then for marimba, also I just starting warm up to mallets, scales and stuff, arpeggio and everything, and then 4 mallets warm up, and then go to the piece. Just depends on what piece I'm working on right now, something like that. And for Timpani, sometimes excerpt, like also start warming up first, like separate hands, one drum, two hands, and then all the balancing of the four drums with the single stroke, roll, stuff like that, and then go to excerpt and exercise and etude and music.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
Let's see if we still have questions.
Yes, Q&A, right? So
Oh, there's one question here, Zara,
Okay, go.
from Kent. Uh, um, how do you balance the practice between snare, timpani, and mallet percussion?
Actually depends on what's going on in that time. Like if you are having symphonic band concert, right? Or sometimes you have orchestra concert and you play some instrument but not all. So make sure you focus on those instruments first.
Mhm.
Okay. But if you have like your solo recital coming up and that you have to play all instruments, so make sure you very specific, like organize pretty well. So you start to know like what the difficult piece, what is the easy piece, right? And then you can divide those hours per day for those instruments. Like if you have pretty hard marimba solo, you can have marimba for 3 hours per day, and then you have like middle difficult for snare drum, maybe you have 1.5 hour. You have super hard but not too hard on Timpani, maybe you have 2 hours, something like that. You have to know your own music and duty first, and then you can adjust for that.
Then you still have multiple percussion.
Oh yeah, yeah, as well.
So
Yeah, for sure.
that's one big problem for us.
That's the fun part. I love
Yes,
multiple percussion, but not the practicing period. It's just the fighting stuff period. That I love. You know, we have to find our own instruments and our own sound, and we have to build
ye-
something for the multiple setup, right? And that's the
Yeah.
fun
yes.
part. Mhm.
Uh, Kent said thank you so much for answering the question.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Because I think Kent is currently studying. I think he's preparing for a performance, a virtual performance. I think a recital.
Mm.
Ah, okay. Good
That's
luck for
why.
that.
Good luck, Kent.
Good
And we
luck, Kent.
also have another question. So, do you still use traditional grip for orchestra snare drum? Because I
For
saw
snare
one.
drum?
Um, if I can just share, I think the Vienna Philharmonic, one
Oh
of
yeah.
their percussionists is using the grip, especially
Yeah, so
I
this is the question for me or in general?
yes, a question for you.
For me, I
Yes.
don't really use traditional grip for snare drum anymore. Maybe I learned that since I was young with the marching band and stuff, and sometimes I play jazz. I doing that too, but for orchestra snare drum, I don't really use traditional grip because I set my snare drum kind of like flat, and sometimes it's just like a little bending to the front, so it's easier to use the match grip instead and control pretty easy, but depends. So probably some people still like using traditional grip, and they can set the snare drum with the side bend like this, right? So it's easier for them too.
Yes, I think most percussionists in the orchestra are using match grip, right? I just
Yeah,
um,
because it's easier for us, right? Timpani is also match, xylophone also match grip, and when you do lots of things in the percussion section, you are almost everyone, right? I see. Like when you roll cymbal, you use match grip.
Mm.
So it's like super easy to not think too much. Just grab stick and play.
but sometimes if there's rolls and for the bass drum, you have to consider traditional grip.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes
Actually, I use traditional
if
grip
it's tilted.
for bass drum rolling though. Yeah.
Mm.
Um One last question from Kent
Yes.
again. So, what is your warm up when playing for mallets?
What is your one when playing four mallets? For four mallets, I have like single stroke, like single independent. I will start with that. Okay. So you have mallet one, 2, 3, 4, right? So you start one, like 8 times, two, and like different tempos first, and then you can do like alternate, okay, the single alternate, and then you can do the double alternate, and then you can do the double stop. So after I warm up single all these mallets first, then I will do double stop, then I'll do double vertical, okay,
Mhm.
and then I will do light scales for my inside mallets, because when I use the traditional grip, I use cross grip. So when I use like the playing the melodic line, so I use just inside mallets first. So I need to warm up my inside mallets to have like strengthening. So I play that a lot with the scales and chromatic and stuff like that. And then I will have like the lateral, the different lateral. Okay, just practice from slow and then double time and then double time. So it's kind of like at the end you can hear the rolling, lateral roll, stuff like that. Yep. And then after that, I think I warm up kind of like different traditional roll for one hand roll, and then do another different stroke on the other hand. So it depends. Sometimes like double stop, sometimes it's like double lateral, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's it. Um, Maybe you could give one last piece of advice to those who are preparing for their auditions, or if ever there will be an opening here in the Philippines soon. So what will be your advice to those who are hoping to be an orchestral percussionist?
Yeah, so for me, if you guys like really, really dream to an orchestra musician, so I think you just start practicing all the excerpts, okay? Study all scores and music. You can find all of those excerpt lists from internet pretty easy, right? Recently, you can find those, and then you collect them. You try to study them, like probably discuss with your teachers, okay, ask them to help, listen to different recordings, analyze the music scores, know everything about music, and then start learning note by note, very slow, from very slow, with always with the metronome, always. That will help you a lot. And then after you start learning and know everything, then you can get faster and faster. And then when you get to the tempo mark, okay, you go along with the recording, then you record it yourself, and you do that like routine. If you want to be an orchestra member, you can do that every day. Just like some percussionists want to be a soloist, they just practice like solo piece all day all night, right? Same thing. If you want to be an orchestra percussionist, just don't wait, just keep practicing. And then one day if you have a chance coming up, then you are so ready. Okay, you're so ready. So don't wait until you have news from some orchestra like, oh, now we are open for the position, you can apply for it, and then you start, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to practice. So don't do that. Okay, just start right away if you want to be an orchestra percussionist. And then don't just think like, I want to be only one orchestra player. Maybe you have to think bigger. You can apply to anywhere in the world, right? The world is super small right now, so you can go anywhere. If you're good, people will always welcome you, for sure.
All
Yes,
right.
go
Thank you
for
for
it.
that inspiring message.
Yes.
I will make sure that I will cover this excerpts from now on, because due to my busy schedule in school, I you know I skip a lot of practice time, but I was inspired by your workshop to start again to break down these details, especially with the Porgy and Bess, because it's my first
Yeah.
time to see that material for the right hand and left hand. So
Ah,
I think
okay.
that's it. How about you, Alan? You have something to say before we
Uh,
wrap up this
well,
event?
like Zara, I have things to do also right now, and I you know um I like I don't have that time to practice. So because of this, because of what you're saying right now, it's very inspiring and uh, very motivating. And of course, the Porky Invest, uh, you added technique for us percussionists to practice that and to master that melodic line. So really thankful about that, and yeah, I think all in all, it's very insightful and inspiring.
My pleasure. You're welcome. It's
Yes,
fun, right? Playing music, super fun.
Uh,
thank you very much for making the time. And on behalf of Percussive
Mhm.
Art Society Philippines, its members, its officers, Sir Satur, Sir Chuck, our remote stream producer, Sir Ryan,
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
backstage with
It's
us.
thank you so
Because
much too for everyone.
this is the last episode of our specialties. Remember, I mentioned earlier that we
Mhm.
started last September, and I'm truly grateful for all the generous artists who shared their craft with us virtually. So thank you so much.
Thank
And to
you.
our audience, thank you so much for your support. And also to my co-host Alan,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you
Yeah.
for
Thank you,
helping us,
Alan.
especially
Thank
with
you,
the
Sarah.
last minute editing a while before this
Yeah.
event.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you to Ryan too, and everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
hope you guys are safe. Okay, stay safe.
Keep safe.
Keep safe.
And
Yeah, and we keep in touch. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.